We're starting on Unit C, Bonds and Bankruptcy, which are closely related. This is Part A of Chapter 5. In Part A, we'll cover the basic features of bonds, how to value them, and techniques for measuring yield and risk. Most people are more familiar with common stock and the stock market, which admittedly is more visible on a day-to-day basis. Bonds tend to be viewed as stodgy and not as interesting. Corporate bonds, while a very important source of funding for firms, are not traded very often, and so they don't garner as much interest as stock. We'll address bond valuation before stock because bonds are generally much easier to value for reasons. Going back to our figure from Chapter 1, we're leading up to being able to establish the cost of debt for a firm, which makes up part of their cost of capital. A plain vanilla bond typically has a face value of $1,000. It sells at issue for $1,000, pays periodic interest, and repays the $1,000 loan at maturity. The interest paid on a bond is called the coupon rate because originally paper bonds had coupons attached for each payment. These coupons were detached and cashed in for the interest. Now, of course, bonds are registered by book entry. The coupon rate for a bond is stated as an APR, which will become more important later in this chapter. The annual interest amount is simply the coupon rate times the face value. Coupon rates are generally fixed at issue and do not change over the life of a bond. Maturity refers to the life of the bond in years. Bonds are long-term instruments, typically having lives up to 20 to 30 years. Bonds are usually issued as a lump sum group on a specific date and typically pay interest on the annual or semi-annual anniversary of that date. Corporate bonds do involve default risk, the risk that the issuer will not be able to make all the coupon payments nor retire the debt at maturity. Most bonds today are issued with a call provision, which allows the issuer to call in an entire bond issue. The issuing firm would want to call in a bond issue if market rates decline significantly from what they're paying as a coupon rate. The logic is the same as deciding to refinance your home mortgage. If a firm is paying 10% and the bonds have 20 years remaining, but market rates have dropped to 6%, even with the cost of calling the old issue, paying the call premium, and refunding with new bonds, it can easily be worth it. Years ago, most bonds did not have a call provision, so investors demanded a higher coupon rate to compensate them for the potential loss if the issue was called. Today, due to highly fluctuating interest rates, most bond issues have a call provision. That said, who would want to buy a 30-year bond expecting 30 years of coupon interest and have it called next year? No one. So callable bonds typically have a deferred call provision, stating that the bond will not be called within the first, say, 5 years. A sinking fund is an attempt by the issuing firm to reduce the default risk on a bond issue. It's a provision to pay off the entire issue over time, usually by retiring a percentage of the full issue each year until maturity. The presence of a sinking fund does reduce the risk of default, but can result in the investor having his bonds retired much earlier than maturity. Sinking funds can be handled in two ways. The issuing firm provides funds to a trustee who handles the sinking fund. The trustee may call a specific percentage of the issue by a lottery of the serial numbers. If the bonds are selling at a discount from par, the trustee may buy the needed number of bonds on the open market. Note that with a sinking fund call, there is no call premium. What makes a bond easier than stock to value is that virtually everything about the bond is set at issue: the face value, the cash flow at maturity, the coupon interest rate, and the time to maturity. Thus, the current value of a bond is simply the present value of the stream of coupon payments plus the present value of the face value. The only unknown is the appropriate discount rate. This formalizes the calculations to value a bond. The first term is the present value of the annuity of coupons. The second term is the present value of the face value at maturity. As a present value, when the discount rate goes up, the value goes down, and vice versa. We can easily solve for any of the elements of a bond using the TVM keys on the calculator. Remember the sign convention. Either PV or FV must be negative. In this case, the future value is positive since it'll be an inflow to you. And it makes sense that the present value would be negative as it's what you have to pay now to buy the cash flow stream of coupons and face value. Using the same Excel functions we covered in Chapter 4, we can value a bond in a spreadsheet. Since bonds are ordinary annuities, the last variable is 0 and can be ignored as 0 is the default. The timeline demonstrates the cash flow stream for a $1,000 face value bond paying 10% interest annually for 10 years if the appropriate discount rate, the yield to maturity, is also 10%. Note that the resulting bond value is equal to the face value. Whenever the coupon rate and the yield to maturity, or the YTM, are equal, the bond will sell for its face value. Most of you are aware that when a new stock comes on the market in an IPO, the price is set the night before, after the market closes. The price is chosen relative to other similar stocks already trading. For a plain vanilla bond, the price is predetermined at $1,000. It's the coupon rate that is set the night before issue, and it's set equal to the going market rate, so the bond will sell for its face value. Here's how those variables would be entered in your calculator. At issue, the coupon rate and market rate, or yield to maturity, are equal, but once the bond starts trading, the coupon rate remains fixed, but the market required return on bonds of similar risk and maturity can change. Thus, when the discount rate changes, the market value of the bond changes. In this case, the yield to maturity rises to 13% for the 10% coupon bond. This causes the bond to sell at a discount from par. In this case, 837.21. Investors are not willing to pay face value for a bond paying below market rates. If market rates move the other way so that the coupon rate on the bond is greater than what the market is currently requiring, the value of the bond rises. Investors are willing to pay more than face value for the larger coupons. To answer this question, consider this. Regardless of the coupon rate, how much would you pay for a $1,000 face value bond the day before it matures? About $1,000, right? As a bond approaches maturity, its price converges to its face value, whether from a position above par or below. This graph makes it appear to be a smooth move toward face value, but in truth, over the life of a bond, it may sell at a premium one year and a discount another, but it's always moving toward its face value. At maturity, the value of any bond must equal its par value. The value of a premium bond would decrease to $1,000, a discount bond would increase, and the par bond would simply remain constant. The one variable required to value a bond that is not observable is the yield to maturity. Yield to maturity is defined as the market-required rate of return on bonds of similar risk and maturity. It's also the rate of return that will be earned on a bond if bought and held to maturity. Consider the bond we looked at that was selling at a premium. Current price was $12.1071. The coupons were $100 per year for 10 years. Face value is $1,000. So you pay $12.1071 for the bond. For 10 years, you receive the $100 per year coupons, and you get the $1,000 face value at maturity. Your return is composed of the cash income, $1,000 in coupons, and the capital gain or loss, negative $210.71. The result is a return of 7%, the yield when you bought the bond. Solving for the yield to maturity is solving for the root of a polynomial. It's possible to do it by hand iteratively, but using the TVM keys, you can easily find it with your calculator. Here's the calculator solution for finding the yield to maturity on our discount bond. Enter the known data and solve for IY. This more or less recaps the relationship between a bond's coupon rate and yield to maturity. Note that before we even begin solving for the yield to maturity, we have an indication of where the value will lie relative to the coupon rate. If the bond is selling at a premium, then the yield to maturity must be less than the coupon rate. If it's selling at a discount, the yield must be greater than the coupon rate. Looking at this premium bond, we expect the yield to maturity to be less than 9%, and it is, 708. When bond prices are quoted, the yield to maturity is not given. The current yield is given. The total return on any investment is the cash income, for a bond that's coupons, plus the capital gain or loss. For a bond, the cash income percentage is the current yield. The capital gains yield is the change in price. For our discount bond, selling for $8.87 and paying a 9% coupon, the current yield is $10.15. If the total return, yield to maturity, that we solve for is $10.91, then the capital gains yield must be the difference. In this case, that's 0.76%. As the slide says, you could simply find the value of the bond in years 1 and 2 and compute the percent change. This ends Part A of Chapter 5. Part B will expand our coverage of bonds to include valuing semi-annual bonds and assessing bond risk.